The story begins as we see a girl who's sad because her teddy bear was torn, and her mother thinks it's a shame since they just bought it, but she tells the girl they can just replace it. The bear is thrown away and taken to an underground facility, but we meet a boy named Rudo who sneaks into the building. As he goes through the trash, a guard pulls up on him and recognizes him as the trash raider who's been stealing garbage from the city. He activates the alarm, which alerts the other guards, but Rudo quickly throws trash at them and gets into the air ducts. He tries to escape, but the guards close the gates and they start shooting him. So he dodges their bullets as he runs away, but one of them hits his shoulder and he still manages to get away. The news about the garbage theft spreads everywhere, and the people in the city blame the slum residents, wondering why they don't stick to their side of the wall. Everyone in the slums knows that it's Rudo, because it isn't the first time he's done it, and they're afraid that his actions will bring them trouble. Rudo's friend Chiwa warns him that he might get into serious trouble if he doesn't stop, and she wonders why he keeps stealing trash. So he explains that the city folk keep throwing away perfectly usable items, telling her he can't help but feel sorry for them, and he adds that it also helps with his expenses. They're suddenly interrupted by three boys, and their leader tells Chiwa to stop hanging out with Rudo, or else she'll also smell like garbage. He makes fun of Rudo's gloves, because he hasn't washed them in years, and one of the boys kicks his lantern, saying no one will buy his garbage. As they continue to mock Rudo, Chiwa reminds them that they all live in the slums, so they shouldn't bully him. One of the boys mentions that Rudo is the son of a serial killer, and unlike Rudo's father, they've been trying to create a better image for themselves. We learn that everyone in the slums is also a descendant of a criminal, and Rudo tries to stay patient, but when they continue talking about his father, he becomes angry. They're afraid of his expression, and as they walk away, they mention that he's just like his father, so he might also become a murderer in the future. But Chiwa believes he isn't a bad person, and she seems to be interested in the teddy bear he found last night, so he tells her it isn't for sale. He's about to give it to her for free, but Chiwa's mother suddenly arrives, and as they make their way home, she advises Chiwa to stay away from him. After that, Rudo returns home, but his guardian Recto teases him because of his awkward conversation with Chiwa. He advises Rudo to be confident about how he feels, and also tells him to stop his raids, because he's putting himself at risk. He thinks Rudo is doing it to help him, and he recalls how Recto raised him after he was abandoned by his parents. But he notes that he doesn't feel like he owes Recto for raising him, explaining that he just wants to show his respect as family. Recto teases him again, telling him he should be that honest with Chiwa, which irritates Rudo, but Recto suddenly notices the wound on his arm and offers to check it. He also changes the bandages on Rudo's hands, and advises him to stay away from the dump sites once again, but Rudo notes that his wound isn't as bad as the ones his father left him with. Recto explains that major crimes are punished with an instant death sentence, where the criminal jumps into the pit, and we learn that Rudo's father faced the punishment. Rudo remembers how his hands were always pitch black, so people always stared at him, but one day, Recto gave him the gloves, which made things better for him. Recto tells him to confess his feelings to Chiwa, or someone else will steal her, but we see a mysterious man spying on them while they're talking. The next day, Recto convinces Rudo to talk to Chiwa, and he even gives him a lesson on how to smile. Rudo heads to her house, but on his way, he sees everyone gathered around the pit because they're executing another criminal. He wonders what happens to the people sent into the pit, but he's suddenly interrupted by Chiwa, who catches him off guard. She tells him that she doesn't wish for him to get thrown into the pit, and he mentions that Recto told him the same thing, so she notes that it's because Recto also loves him. They both become flustered as they realize what she just said, and he gives her the teddy bear, telling her it will be happy in her company. She happily accepts it, telling him she'll cherish it forever, and he runs off to inform Recto about what happened. Rudo returns home, but he sees Recto lying on the floor as a man stabs his chest, so he rushes to attack him. But he realizes that he's no match for him, and the man takes a book with him before he escapes. Rudo tells Recto he'll get help, but he tells Rudo he can change their world as he takes his last breath. The officers suddenly taser him from behind and arrest him because they think he murdered Recto, and he tries to convince them that he's innocent, but they think he's lying since he has blood on his clothes. After that, everyone gathers as the executioner notes that a murderer can't be forgiven, even if the victim was just an ordinary man from the slums. As Rudo is given the death sentence, everyone starts cheering, and he can't understand why no one believes him. He notices Chiwa and asks her to find Regto's real murderer, but even she believes that he's guilty, so she drops the bear and turns her back on him. Rudo feels all alone, and since no one believes that he's innocent, he thinks they're all just trash who have eyes and ears, but they can't even use them to see the truth. He promises to send them all to hell, and he suddenly notices the real murderer standing in front of him, but before he can say anything, he gets dropped into the pit. After a while, Rudo regains consciousness, and he's surprised that he's still alive, but he suddenly smells a foul odor and covers his nose. He remembers how he was sent to the pit, and he sees a giant monster, so he realizes that they were right to call it hell. He remembers how everyone's obsessed with punishing criminals, and they threw them down the pit as punishment, but no one cared what happened to them once they were sent there. He tries to escape from the trash monster, which summons other monsters with its roar, and they surround him from all sides. The monsters rush at him, so he dodges their attacks, but he trips to the ground, and he notices a human skull. He curses the people who sent him there, but the garbage crumbles, and the monsters stop attacking him. He notices that the air is poisonous, so he covers his mouth and nose as he looks for a safe spot, but he isn't sure if such a place even exists in this world. He suddenly starts vomiting blood, and the monsters approach him, so he wonders if he's about to die and starts to lose hope. But the image of Regto's death comes to his mind, and it reminds him that he can't give up, so he grabs an iron pipe, thinking he must avenge Regto and punish those who wronged him. The monster tries to attack him from behind, but he knocks it back, and accidentally sends a Ken flying towards a man named Engen, who's sitting nearby. So he uses his binoculars to look around, and he sees Rudo fighting the monsters. Rudo attacks the monsters as he ignores the poisonous air, and one of them sends him flying, but he refuses to give up, and grabs an old pole, which he swings with all his might. He hits a monster, but another one shows up beneath him, so he jumps away, but he coughs out blood again because of the poisonous air. Two monsters try to crush him, but the near-death experience awakens his hidden powers, and he destroys them with a metal sheet. Another monster appears, and Rudo is already exhausted, so he tries to run away, but it creates a strong shockwave that sends him flying. As he opens his eyes, he notices Engen, who kicks him away before placing a mask on his mouth. Rudo has a lot of questions, and Engen tells him to be silent, but he continues asking him questions about the pit. Engen whispers and tells him to keep his voice down, but Rudo doesn't understand him, telling him to speak clearly. Engen loses his composure, and he yells at Rudo that they aren't underground, explaining that it's the fault of people on the surface for turning the pit into hell. He tells Rudo that the trash beasts can't be defeated with ordinary weapons, and they're attracted to sound, so he was trying to keep a low profile. He blames Rudo for drawing attention towards them, and a beast approaches them, but he transforms his umbrella into a weapon. The beast attacks him, but he grinds it into pieces, and he notices a large group of monsters. But instead of being scared, he charges in and obliterates them with his umbrella, before jumping into the air and using it as a parachute. Rudo is impressed that he was able to defeat them so easily, and wishes that he had similar powers, so that he could also fight the people who sent him there. The last monster shoots acid at Engen, but he blocks the attack, and uses his special Umbreaker Octashredder to destroy the beast. Rudo asks him who he is, so he removes his mask, and introduces himself as a cleaner. But the toxic air stings his nose, and he once again blames Rudo for making him take it off, while Rudo collapses from exhaustion. We go back to Rudo's childhood, where he was bullied by other kids for saying objects are alive, because Regto taught him that when an object is treated with care, a soul will inhabit it. Regto reveals that it's an old legend, but he still believes in it, and Rudo wonders if his gloves have a soul as well, so Regto tells him a soul will inhabit them if he takes care of them. We return to the present, as Rudo wakes up and finds himself chained, so he tells Engen to free him, but Engen just drags him away. He notes that Rudo should be thankful to him for saving his life, but Rudo doesn't understand what he means, so Engen explains how he passed out earlier. Rudo wants to climb back to the upper world called the Sphere, because he wants to get revenge, but Regto tells him that it's impossible to return, so he should just accept his fate. Rudo refuses to give up, because he thinks Engen is hiding something from him, which makes Engen angry, so he decides to educate him on what kind of place they're in. Engin leaves him near a strange establishment with 2 trucks, and a group of masked men notice him, realizing he's from the sphere. They're excited to see that he's still alive, because they mostly find Spherit's dead bodies, and he becomes nervous as they examine him, but they assure him that they won't harm him. They quickly start removing his chains, so he thinks they're nicer than Engin, but they suddenly chain him to their truck. They think they can sell him for a high price, and their leader mentions that the Spherits dump waste on their ground, which has poisoned their air and land. It led to the creation of trash beasts, and those who were affected would love to torture him, because they blame the Spherits for ruining their world. The leader notices that Rudo is too thin, so he forces him to eat their trash food, but Rudo bites the flesh off his fingers and chews it along with the food. He tells them it's perfectly edible, and he once again taps into his hidden powers, which he uses to break free. He remembers how Regdo told him that treating objects with care makes them alive, and as he grabs the chain, his energy flows into it, which shocks the kidnappers. We see Engin watching him from a distance, and he's happy that Rudo is a giver, who can give life to objects just like him. The leader tells his men to attack Rudo, and he thinks a giver is useless without their object, so they should take his chain to defeat him. They struggle to get close to him, and one of them manages to disarm him, but he surprises them by grabbing a tire, which he turns into his weapon. Everyone's surprised seeing this, because it's rare for a giver to use more than one object, and he's able to take out the men. He's about to kill their boss, but Engin suddenly stops him, and Rudo regains his composure, asking Engin what just happened. The tire he was holding turns into dust, and his nose starts bleeding, as Engin tells him that his powers take a toll on his body. He apologizes for testing Rudo, and Engin knows that he has a lot of questions, so he promises to tell him everything. But in exchange, he must join their group of cleaners and fight monsters, but Rudo declines his offer. Engin takes Rudo to a clinic, and he calls his friend to tell him about recruiting Rudo, who he believes is a natural talent, but Rudo notes that he isn't ready to join them. He mentions that he needs to go back to the sphere, but the doctor tells him he's in no position to refuse, because Engin saved him by giving him a gas mask. As they leave the clinic, Rudo thanks Engin for paying his bill, and notes that he needs information, but he has no time to join their group. Engin reminds him how the people in their world view the Spherits, and notes that information isn't free, so he should just shut up and follow him.
Engin takes Rudo to the city and treats him to a burger,
which surprises him
because he thought there would only be trash in the pit. Engin explains that
garbage isn't the only thing that
builds up on the ground, because emotions also build up anima,
which converts into energy,
and it's the reason why the trash beasts exist.
He reveals that they mostly stay in the garbage dumps,
but they sometimes attack the city, and regular weapons
don't work on them.
But his gloves can beat them because they also have anima.
Engin notes that when an object is treated with
care for a long time, an anima inhabits it,
and they call these objects vital instruments.
He tells Rudo that their organization needs more givers
to fight the trash beasts.
So Rudo wonders if in exchange for joining their group,
Engin will teach him how to return to the surface.
So he reveals that he doesn't know how to do that,
but notes that his boss is a wise man
who might be able to help him. Engin asks him about his gloves,
so he reveals that his dad gave them to him, and they're the only thing to remember him by.
Engin thinks he should take care of them, which makes him emotional,
because everyone else mocked him for his old gloves.
Engin suddenly gets a message, so he decides to leave.
But Rudo thanks him
for everything, and Engin gives him a small bag of money to help him survive.
Rudo can't believe he's giving it to him, but Engin mentions that it's no big deal,
because he got it by selling
Rudo's clothes. He goes crazy hearing it,
but Engin tells him that he couldn't
go around wearing spheric clothes, because it would put him in danger.
Engin tells Rudo to wait there while he talks to his trainer, but a cat suddenly grabs his pouch and runs away.
So Rudo tries to catch it, and realizes that it's much
faster than him,
but he notices a stick, so he quickly grabs it to pin down the cat.
A man named Zonka arrives,
telling Rudo that the stick belongs to him, and he
forcefully takes it back.
Rudo notices the cleaner's symbol, and realizes he's also a
cleaner like Engin,
but Zonka activates his power to teach Rudo a lesson.
His attack narrowly misses Rudo,
and he mentions that Engin put him in charge of his training,
but he never thought his student would be a thief.
Rudo explains that he was borrowing the stick to get his money back,
but Zonka taunts him about how his father couldn't teach him basic manners,
which pisses him off.
But he remembers how Regdo told him to stay calm and listen to the other person,
so he apologizes
for taking Zonka's precious treasure. He thinks Rudo isn't a bad person.
because he returned his staff, so he thinks he just overreacted.
Rudo realizes it's the
First time he defused the situation, and he thinks Recto was right about
more things than he thought.
Zonka helps him get up and asks about his vital instrument.
So Rudo tells him it's
probably his gloves, but he doesn't know much about his ability.
Zonka examines his gloves,
and he thinks they're cool, so Rudo also wants to be friendly.
and he remembers how
Recto told him to smile. So he tries to show his happy side.
but Zonka is
Creeped out by his odd expressions and thinks Rudo is making fun of him.
He thinks about why his smile looked creepy, and he tries to do it with his eyes and lips closed.
but Zonka
Still thinks he's mocking him. Zonka thinks Rudo is just
overconfident because Engin
called him a genius, but he reminds him that they're always putting their lives on the line.
while Rudo is
taking it too casually. He thinks Rudo doesn't even look serious
when he talks about his goal.
So it must be a foolish one, but Rudo remembers how Recto
told him to change the world,
and his mood suddenly changes. He tells Zonka that he's
serious about his goal,
so he should never make fun of it, but Zonka notes that he knew they wouldn't get along,
and he pulls out his weapon.
Rudo also grabs a rod behind him,
and Zonka is shocked
that he can make any object his vital instrument, thinking it's the reason why
Engin called him a genius.
But Zonka tells Rudo that his natural talent won't help
him defeat someone more
experienced, and Zonka's staff suddenly falls from above,
which surprises Rudo.
Zonka grabs it and charges at him, so he's forced to defend himself.
And Zonka tells him
that his vital instruments are the only things special about him.
Rudo struggles to keep up with him,
and he gets pinned to the ground, but Zonka smells the dirt that fell on him,
and he
suddenly freaks out. He notices that Rudo is holding a plunger,
but Rudo can't understand why he's reacting that way,
so Zonka tries to explain what a plunger is.
But Rudo isn't in the mood to listen, and he keeps swinging at him,
so Zonka starts running away.
Rudo doesn't understand why he's so scared, but he chases after him,
and he manages to cover him with poop.
Engin arrives, and he thinks they've already become friends.
But as they get in his car and discuss what happened, he bursts out laughing,
and Zonka can't believe he was
humiliated. Engin tells Rudo that Zonka is a spoiled kid,
and he never expected someone to throw poop at him, but Zonka is still the most skilled giver in their group,
so Rudo will learn a lot from him. Zonka is surprised that Engin
considers him a skilled person,
but Engin suddenly asks a girl named Rio when she got there,
so she mentions that
she was just curious to meet Rudo. She starts checking his hair to see if it's natural,
and he's surprised that
a girl is playing with his hair, wondering if it's what life is like on the ground.
Engin drives them to the cleaner's headquarters.
With this, the video have come to an end. If you enjoy anime recaps, don't forget to subscribe. New videos are coming, so hit that subscribe button.
縫っても不格好になるだけだろうし。